What does it mean and what does it look like for you? What does it feel like to live a rich, prosperous, and abundant life?
Wholeness, uh, peace, and abundance, the feeling of abundance. And I think a lot of times in my life, I didn't feel like I was living a prosperous life because I felt wounded. I felt scarce. I felt insecure. I felt like I was doubting myself. And those doubts made me feel like I was living in scarcity versus living in an abundance of possibilities, of freedom, of peace. And so for me, the rich life is living a peaceful, abundant life.
It's so important to define what that is for us, right? Because we're fed with so many notions of what it means to be rich or wealthy, but we all have a different psychological makeup and what's going to make us uniquely fulfilled. And so, how important do you feel like that question from a wide perspective is to ask?
I think everyone should ask themselves, what is a definition of a rich life? And what does abundance look like for them? What does wealth look like for them? If you would have asked me when I was in my 20s, I'd have been like, having millions of dollars in the bank and being able to do whatever I want, whenever I want. And that's an element maybe to feeling rich for me. But there are a lot of millionaires and billionaires that I've met or interviewed or know who don't have that inner peace. They have a lot of net worth, but they don't have self-worth. They have a lot of, money, but they're almost trapped from their money. And it's making them more stressed out and more anxious and more insecure than secure feeling. And there's almost like never enough money will give them that peace they're looking for. So I would rather not have that, but feel rich and abundant in the inside of me, in my heart and my mind, than have all the money in the world and feel trapped.
Mm. I think about the qualities that we can cultivate as a human being that then attracts and magnetizes to us what's meant for us in so many ways, and the right amount of finances. So we're not too stressed, but it covers our needs and allows us to creatively express to all the different areas of life. And we have it backwards, and most people are familiar with this notion of have, do, be, Once I have X, Y, and Z, then I'll be able to do X, Y, and Z, and then I can be happy, fulfilled, etc. And I guess this conversation is really inviting us to flip it in reverse and seeing how we can cultivate the qualities of who I want to be for life, for others, the universe, my work, my relationships, and then I'll be able to do, and then the things I have will be a byproduct of those efforts.
They'll amplify the energy, the feelings that I already have. If I'm being joyful, grateful, present, curious, passionate, if I'm being those things, I'll be a magnet to be able to create more, and I'll have more of the things that I'm creating, but it'll be a byproduct of the energy that I'm putting out there. So I love that. It's such a simple concept, and I feel like everyone in our industry or watching has probably heard that. But sometimes we need that reminder that it's not about have, do, and then I'll be, grateful, or then I'll be more generous, or then I'll be more giving. It's like we need to be more giving and generous first, then I can have more of the results.
It's so insidious, and it's like it's easy for us to slip back into that, happiness is just around the corner after that one little thing or new milestone or number. And yeah, it's so important to get advice from people who live your definition of a rich life, who have those meaningful connections and are contributing to a more beautiful world and are financially abundant and are physically vital and like these things. And those individuals that I've talked to, and I'm sure that you've talked to, have really put emphasis on the beginning part of who you're being.
Yes.
And so I would love for us to kind of break down and get your perspective on all the qualities of that abundant person, like the qualities we cultivate internally, and then we can go and talk about the money, the relationships, the things that kind of come, on the journey after that.
I just believe that gratitude and generosity is the gateway to abundance. And so if we aren't living in gratitude in a consistent basis in our lives, and we aren't thinking generously, this doesn't have to be, I have to give my money to people freely, but how can I be generous with time, resources, information, generous with my presence again, generous with my paying attention and looking people in the eyes, generous with listening with an open heart, generous with being passionate about someone else's success and not just needing something for myself, generous as a giver, not a taker. If I can be grateful for where I'm at and really appreciate the things that I'm grateful for, that appreciation will continue to appreciate in value. It will grow and expand in value what you're grateful for. Therefore, you'll have more of it externally, but definitely more gratitude internally. And my whole business and career really started from a place of depression and sadness because I didn't have what I wanted. So I was sleeping on my sister's couch for a year and a half in my early mid-20s. And I had this taker energy, taking mentality. Why am I stuck? Why did this happen to me? Why can't I get out of this? Why am I broke? Why do my dreams just crash down? Why am I injured? This kind of sadness, have pity on me energy. And nothing good came from that. Some people had pity on me and they gave me some $20 here and there, but it didn't generate something externally or internally that felt good. And it wasn't until I realized and started listening and started learning that I have to be more grateful and I've got to be a giver. That's when everything started to shift for me internally. I started to feel more abundant even when I was broke. And there's kind of 4 things that we can all be. We can either be broke and miserable. We can be broke and happy. We can be financially successful and miserable, or we can be financially successful and happy. And we get to choose where we're at in terms of the energy we are on either being broke or having money. And when I was broke and miserable, it's not a good place to be. It's just not enjoyable. Broke and happy was an incredible place to be. I didn't enjoy living on my sister's couch, not being able to pay for things. I didn't enjoy that. But I felt like, man, I can take on the world with this energy. I can learn anything. I can meet anyone. It was like possibilities were all around me because I started shifting that energy on the inside by being grateful and being generous with the hidden gifts that were inside of me. And I didn't even know I had talents. But those talents turned into prosperity for me. And then I've also had financial success and been miserable. And that's almost worse than being broke and being miserable. It's almost as bad because you have everything you think you're supposed to have, but you don't feel good enough. You still don't feel enough, or you're missing something still.
Yeah, if you're broke and miserable, at least you have the illusion of one day I won't be.
Exactly, yeah. Or it's like you're at the bottom. Okay, I can't get any worse than this. But when you have money and you have financial security and you have options, but you don't love yourself, but you can't look in the mirror and forgive yourself, but every relationship around you is broken, or you feel like everyone's out to get you, or you can't really understand the purpose of your life still, it is terrifying. It's like, oh, I have this money and I feel like I'm supposed to feel happy. I got the thing, have, then I'll be, but I'm not being happy. Now what? It's terrifying. It's terrifying being broke and miserable also, but this is also terrifying. And I think the goal is to figure out how can we be peaceful, harmonious, and feel whole no matter where we are financially or where we are opportunity-wise. And it's very tricky and hard to do. I'm not saying this is easy. And it's a constant journey of appreciating your own value and your own process. We were just talking before about changes in podcasting and how sometimes it's harder and how it's like more tiring at times and how other people could be popping off. And you're like, man, what are they doing that I'm not doing? It's like the comparison game at any level can be daunting. And that's why being grateful and being generous will unlock more abundance no matter how much you have. And I think if you can continue to remind yourself to live on that moment by moment, one day at a time, gratitude and generosity, that is richness, that is wealth, that is prosperity. And it's so hard to not think about the goals and the results you want to create. But I have found that I have way less stress and much more peace when I live in that day-to-day. Sure, I have big goals and dreams, but letting go of the results, letting go of what will happen, and knowing that I'll be okay no matter what results happen in my life, for me, that's a richer life.